Seeing the views come in on your reviews is a great indication that you've finally been really helpful for some group of your viewers. If you're not getting views, this sounds stupid, let's just flip that equation. Ask ourselves, how can I be really helpful? If we can execute, the views will likely follow. There are 5 steps in my review making process that have resulted in some traction and good viewer feedback. In step 5, we'll do some video editing, and that's where RECUT, the sponsor of this video, is going to reliably save us time on every single upload. If you're new to this channel, we're about to make some sausage, all right? So let's see how I tried to package my photography in a helpful way. First, we need an idea. And you can't roll your eyes and skip ahead to the filming and editing chapters. These steps are in order for a reason. I like to think of my ideas more as a thesis as opposed to a broadly applicable search term, or as my take, sometimes a spicy one. Basically, a combination of the product that I'm reviewing and my most helpful or impactful thought that I have about it. One that I think will resonate with others, and one that truly matches my personal experience. I think about these all the time. I spend a lot of time watching YouTube, and I do a lot of YouTube autocomplete searching to see what people are looking for. In this hypothetical example, and by hypothetical, I mean I uploaded the video this same day so we can track the progress, I've been shooting birds and generally longer focal lengths recently, and wanted to try them out on the Canon R7 that I got from Lens Rentals. My RF 70-200 f4 review is doing really well. It's my favorite lens, and I wanted to see how to get extra reach out of that 100-400 on an APS-C sensor. In step 2, we want to see if we have some existing search for this, and go on to create our title and thumbnail. As a small channel, targeting search is one of the best cheat codes to get started. No one knows you, no one likes you, so we want to find people that are actively typing questions in that search bar, and then we want to be really solid at answering those questions for them. So I'm going to search Canon R7, space 7, in an incognito tab, and this is where I want to see what auto-completes. We don't really know the search volume without using another tool, but who cares? We don't want to get too technical. We are going to make the video anyway because we want to practice and build skills, but it is helpful to see what's out there. And the answer is not that many thumbnails are showing the body and lens together for this search, and that's okay. Let's aim to be one of the videos here that shows the R7 and 70-200 f4 combo, because these items are at least getting searched individually. We're trying to strike a balance between creating intrigue with this combination title and thumbnail and being very clear what the video is about. Try to use the title and visuals to complement each other without repeating the same text in both. I know that this format sort of works for me. I like to feature the R7 and the lenses, calling out the zooms, and a title like Long Lens Reach. My idea is that viewers looking for this combo, the 70-200 and the R7, or one of these items individually, either the 70-200 or the 100-400, will be intrigued and might click this video. And that's all we really need before step 3, just that click. It's really important, and you need tons of practice to start getting this down, and that's why we focus on it before we even film. The good news is that the top results for your YouTube searches are an endless library of examples of titles and thumbnails that do well. That's why they're shown at the top. Take a deep dive in your niche, try to get a sense of what works, replicate it, and put your spin on it. Step 3, once we get that click, let's go back to our formula and be really helpful right from the start. We do that with our information, and on the continuum of bare bones bullet points to word for word scripting, I'm more of a heavy script guy. I'm just afraid to go off script. I like to describe my channel as low clickbait, no nonsense, high value, and a detailed script helps me stick to that. So I skip all the branded channel nonsense in the beginning. I skip any gorgeous B-roll just for B-roll's sake without delivering any information. And I'm not going to ask for likes or subs before I give you anything of value. I like to view my scripts in 3 parts. And the first is the hook, a very short intro that builds on your title and thumbnail. Rewatch this one. I'm trying to affirm that you're in the right place, make you feel comfortable that you're in the right spot for the next 10 minutes. And then I introduce the concept that providing outstanding value and helpfulness for the viewer is going to be the way that we start getting traction on our reviews. And as a sponsored video, I want to indicate where the value from that sponsor comes into play for both me and for you. It's easier for me to create that social proof when I'm promoting a product that I actually use and that's really helpful. Second part of the script is the meat, the juicy middle. I'm starting with a rough outline for this script, just those 5 bullet points for my steps, and then I'm fleshing that out in between. For reviews, sometimes I structure them as tips on how to best use the product. Sometimes I structure them as pros versus cons. For the advanced out there, weaving your points into a compelling story is kind of best practice, but frankly, that's pretty hard, and I'm not quite there yet. A good structure, again, is to lead with that thesis and then deliver your supporting evidence for that thesis. I think a trap that a lot of people fall into is feeling the need to answer the question, is it worth it, or should I buy it definitively? That's fine, but think about your behavior when you buy something expensive like a camera lens. If you're like me, you watch every video on the internet, so don't feel like you have to do all the heavy lifting for a viewer in just your one video. Lean in and get to the nitty-gritty of one aspect. For example, I like to lean on travel or landscape shooting for these types of lenses, or go deep in areas that haven't been covered yet, or give it full coverage, but do it in a completely unique way. The value in my channel is that I'm showing you pictures of what I'm getting with the products and the places and ways that I like to use them. And then I'm putting the responsibility back on you to assess how close your use cases are and to form your opinions accordingly. And then if you're aiming to be honest and authentic in your script, I don't think there's a shortcut for going out and doing the hard work to evaluate the products. You have to source that information somehow, and for me, it looks a lot like just spending a lot of time with the products themselves, taking mental notes on my first impressions, and then it's also watching a lot of other reviews because you're not going to be an expert just yet. It's also good to get other perspectives. I like to spend a lot of time in the comments of other videos. You can think of this as customer research. Viewers are going to express their sentiments, their use cases, their outstanding questions about a product, and you can and should mine this data to inform your opinions and inform the evidence in your scripting and videos. If nothing else, it gives you a framework of the things to test when trying out a product so that you can apply your own take. People are literally spelling out exactly what's missing in the comments of other people's reviews. So take advantage of that and use it to try to improve when you make your video. And the final step in scripting is to plan out my 20-second end screen. I want to direct viewers to where they can watch more from me, ideally videos that are increasingly helpful and related to the same topic. And I'll actually cut to the end screen of this video right now to play it as an example. To see how I implement all of this successfully, check out my Canon Gear Bag 2024 video, because that blew up at the start and got really good feedback. Or check out my Canon R7 video used with long lenses, the same video that we've been talking about today and have been using as our example. In step 4, we're finally ready for some actual production. This is difficult to cover briefly though, and it will depend on your gear. You don't need the best setup in the world to make review videos, but these are the 3 things that I would consider. 1, audio. It needs to be good enough, and you can probably get by with your phone, but whether you are recording a talking head portion, voiceover, or while out and about showcasing product features, you need a plan to both record this and clean it up in editing. 2, good lighting is going to make all of your shots look better, regardless of the camera that you're using. Perhaps big, soft, diffused window light for a talking head if you don't have separate lighting. If you're new to all of this, $500 spent on continuous video lights will make a much bigger difference than $500 put into something like an entry-level camera. And then finally 3, prioritize the camera. If you're in the camera space, you might have them lying around, even if they're not perfect, or you might be renting them from lens rentals. If not, 4K phone stuff looks pretty good, particularly when combined with good audio, and that's gonna get you far enough in most niches in 2024. And with all this, you wanna make sure you're capturing or creating visuals to show off as many of the concepts you're talking about, because it will make good example B-roll. Part of being helpful and keeping your viewers engaged is showing, not just telling. My videos feature this talking head track that you see here, just this desk and this blank white wall, no fancy studio, and then I layer my product shots over top on my timeline. And as promised, step 5 is editing. My style is not one unedited long take. People that can do this in an engaging way are incredible speakers, and I can't do it, but it's also not a highly edited and attention-demanding beastified edit. I want to maximize my viewer retention, but that style is a little bit too much for my taste. In practice, this means I take my A-roll track, I cut out all of my bad takes and screw-ups, or parts that I find uninteresting after the fact. I stitch those all together for my final A-roll track. And cutting up the A-roll track is exactly where RECUT comes in, and it saves a ton of time. RECUT automatically removes silence in your videos, so I drop in my unedited A-roll and audio, sync them up, and let RECUT remove all the silences. I can then pull those cuts directly into Premiere, and I now have eliminated the task of going through manually and cutting out silence and cutting each take. Once in Premiere, I can get right to work removing all of my pre-cut mistakes, and doing a final trim on my selected bits. If you're editing video regularly like this, RECUT is a one-time payment, and you can save yourself $10 by using my link below. I use it every single long form and podcast edit, and it saves me at least a half hour on each of those projects. And actually, before that step, I edit my audio in Audition, and I show in my free podcast crash course video how you can do this very simply using a tool called Auphonic. After I've got my final A-roll and good audio, I layer in my B-roll. Most of this I've planned out even in my scripting phase, but obviously there are some times when I change this up and I still want to go back and reshoot some. I find it helpful to gather B-roll over time as well. You can start filming bits that might work into your final edit as early as the ideation phase, at least if you already have the product on hand. Then I usually add a little bit of flair, titles and text that correspond with my video chapters, maybe some intro and outro music or sound effects. I usually use Epidemic Sound there, or some other graphics or assets that I've recently dabbled in Artlist for. These are important, and polish doesn't hurt, but really I think 80% of your time should be spent on the title thumbnail combination, the scripting, and figuring out ways on how to best maximize the value that you can communicate to your ideal viewer. Finally, iterate, baby. Be really harsh with yourself as you watch your drafts back over and over and over at each step of the process. When in doubt, cut it out. And if you find yourself being bored, then your viewers certainly are going to get bored at those parts as well. And when you're happy, export, upload, engage with the comments, do it all over again, and check out my podcast, The Upload Iceberg, if you're interested in the YouTube analytics part of all this, and specifically to see how this Canon R7 example turns out.